Hey everybody, good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Money in the Morning. So good to see everybody. I hope you all are doing well. Come on in and get comfortable. And let me tell you, today we have a guest. Yes, it's not just me. As y'all know, it's usually just me. This is a pretty sacred space. I do not invite people in this space unless I feel like they're worth coming in here. So I'm not going to invite somebody in because they're a celebrity, or excuse me, or because they're rich, or because they have credentials. I want to bring people in that can actually help us to achieve our goal, which is to help our families get stronger and wealthier and more successful all the way across the board. They can enhance our physical, mental health, our economic health, our relationships. So today's special guest is Mr. Cody Ransom. Cody Ransom is I'm just going to go ahead and define him as an expert on Black Wall Street, among many other things. He's a very knowledgeable brother that just he knocked my socks off when I went to Tulsa and did a tour of Black Wall Street, and Cody was just dropping all this knowledge, and I said, "Oh my God, this is my head was about to explode." Anyway, without further ado, I want to welcome Cody. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing amazing. How about yourself?
I'm doing great, brother. I'm doing great. And everybody, let's give Cody a Money in the Morning welcome. Let him know what kind of space this is. This is a B1 space, Black first. So we love ourselves, we love each other, and we also love you, brother. So everybody, let him know in the chat how happy you are to have him here. And I promise you, he's gonna deliver. He's gonna bring something special to you. So anyway, without further ado, let's get started. So let me ask you this, man. So tell me, where do you live? What do you do? Just break some of that down so people can kind of know a little bit about you.
Yeah, I actually still live in the Greenwood district. I live in my grandmother's house that she purchased in 1948. Used to be old Klan neighborhood, but when Greenwood got too big in the 40s, Black families started to move into those neighborhoods. So when she passed, she left it to her kids, and then I came in and kind of started renovating it, kind of getting it back to what she had it at. I work in Black Wall Street. I live here. Like, this is pretty much all I do. Coach youth basketball, of course, historian and tour guide here in Greenwood, and then mainly just feeding people black, black facts, black information. My coffee shop is geared around Black history, so all of our drinks are all named after just people in Black history. People should know. A lot of it is Greenwood influenced, but then also just simple things like when you grab a bag of chips out of my coffee shop, those are George Crumb chips, just so they know that a Black man invented the potato chip. So just little stuff like that. It's kind of what I do is I'm an artist as well, so I write music, poetry. I get to write with a few mainstream artists, mainly R&B, pop, stuff like that. And so I always try to write from a storytelling perspective. I believe that art, if you go back and look at art, it'll tell you the conditions of the people in that time period. So I want to make sure that we don't always just have, especially with Black history, we don't always have negative parts of it, that we get some positives in there too. So that's kind of what I try to write into history, I guess.
Oh, okay, okay. So I'll tell everybody how I met you. My brother recommended you for our tour guide, and we did go to your coffee shop. But what's the name of that coffee shop? I want everybody to know
It's
the name of it.
the Black Wall Street Liquid Lounge.
The Black Wall Street Liquid Lounge, which, by the way, if you ever go to Tulsa, y'all got to stop by there. Tell them the Dr. Boyce sent you, and they'll give you. Hopefully, they'll give you the Dr. Boyce special, whatever that.
For sure.
I want them to treat you well, and I'm gonna tell you, I was impressed with the quality of the food and drinks. The quality of the service was just superior, and the tour, man. You took us on a tour, right? So here I was I was embarrassed actually when I went on the tour because I thought I understood the story of Black Wall Street. And I'd studied it, I read a lot of stuff, talked to a lot of people. But there was something about that tour as you and I we were all walking up and down the streets of Black Wall Street, and you were just saying one thing after another that most people just do not know. Um, do you go through that a lot? Is that the experience a lot of people have when they go on the tour with you?
Yeah, yeah. It's and the funny thing is, I thought it was common knowledge. So to me, I thought everyone kind of knew all of these things. I read the same books, but then when I talked to the elders, they would kind of give me more context into what that was. And so one of my granny's old quotes, which is an African proverb, it says, "Never look where you fall, always check where you slip." So any event she had me look at, she would always have me look at what's going on in the rest of the world, the rest of the region on that exact same day. So one of the pieces that made me really tie that in is she kept a copy of a newspaper from the Titanic sinking. So the Tulsa World had posted, they published a newspaper about the Titanic sinking. And I'm thinking, like, I never thought about what Tulsa was doing at the time that the Titanic sank, but apparently one of the Rockefellers was in Tulsa at the time. And so, of course, a Rockefeller was on the Titanic. So they published that whole newspaper just to let that particular Rockefeller know. That's how he would have found out that a family member passed on the Titanic. So it's like
Wow.
tying Tulsa into what's going on another side of the world. And so that's what I was doing with Black Wall Street, is kind of finding an incident that might have happened in 1919 and then figuring out what happened around the rest of it. And so that's how I started finding really the stories of people versus the story of an area. And so when I do tours, I like to tell the stories of people. It resonates more with humans when you can put a name and a face to it. And so that's what I gear my tours around. And then, as you saw, like, there's times where we're gonna laugh. There's times where the history's gonna get heavy, and I try to implement all of it because all of it is are the emotions we're going to go through. So I want to make sure we all feel them at the same time and kind of break that down.
Mm. So let me ask you, Cody, what would you say, well, if you had to name, say, one or two of the biggest misconceptions
Mm.
about Black Wall Street and what happened there that most people don't know? What would you say that is in terms of things that people should know, but they just don't know because nobody ever told us?
Yeah, I would say the first thing is Black Wall Street wasn't the only black town. There were 53 black towns in Oklahoma, which was more than any other state in the US. And then we now have 13 black towns, which is still more than any other state in the US. And then also that Oklahoma was supposed to be the first black and Native American state in the US. So the prominence of Black Wall Street would have not just been in Greenwood, that existed all over. And so when you're looking at Black Wall Street and thinking that this was a one-off event, this goes right in the middle of the Red Summer, which is 1917 to 1924. There's over 30 black towns that were burned the exact same way during that time period. So I think that as much as we all attached to Black Wall Street, if we really take a dive into our own cities, we'll find that there was at least a version of it everywhere that black people were. So one of the biggest misconceptions of black history is that after slavery was abolished, black people didn't work together, that the whole colorism and light skin, dark skin, all these things separated us because of slavery. But Greenwood is an example that directly after slavery was abolished, black people worked together, black people came together, and we built amazing things. First generation free people were able to do things that we have not replicated now. So
Mm.
they more advanced than what we've been able to do now, but it's mainly because we don't know that particular part. So if I start you with your history as, you were a slave, so now you'll be okay with, well, now you can vote and now you can go to any grocery store versus me saying you used to have your own grocery store, you used to have your own bank. Those are things that not only empower people, but it activates something in black people's soul to make them, I think, as heavy as this history is, everyone who leaves the tour wants to go do something with the other black people when they leave.
Really, very interesting.
Mm.
So, everybody, if you just came in, I'm talking to Cody Ransom. Cody Ransom is an expert among on a lot of things, namely Black Wall Street, among other issues related to that. Cody is also going to join us in the Black Business School. He's a kind of an adjunct faculty member. He came in last year and did a great training on Black Wall Street and the real history behind it last year. He's going to do another one pretty soon, and in fact, Friday he and I are going to do a deep fireside chat where we're going to go deep into some of these issues and you get a chance to engage with him a little bit further. So yeah, I'll put that link in the chat. And if you also want me to text the link out to you, make sure you're on the text list. Text the word morning to 87948 and you'll get a link and an invitation to the Friday event. So let me ask you about this, Cody. Do you feel that, I mean, I've been watching, people like Demario Solomon Simmons represent the survivors and what happened in court where they kind of threw the case out. And I'm gonna tell you, I felt a little bit strange seeing people have to be, us having to bring, 105, 102, 103-year-old people to court to deal with this issue. I felt I just didn't like that. I felt like that was disrespectful to them to make them have to do all that at that age that they are, and then to even throw the case out. Do you feel that the state of Oklahoma, let's talk about Oklahoma in particular, has really done justice when it comes to really recognizing what happened with the Greenwood section of Tulsa?
Not at all. Miss Fletcher, someone Demario is actually my older cousin, so I get to hear all of the inside scoop. Also, Miss Fletcher, I've known her for years, man. She's 110, and it
Wow.
to hear that, Oklahoma treats them that way. They continue to pass their court cases so far out that actually Miss Fletcher's younger brother died last year, so in the middle of the lawsuit. But they are the last people that could have actually been paid from that lawsuit. It's a public nuisance lawsuit, so you have to be directly affected by the massacre, not indirectly. And so at that time, there were only three people alive that had that argument, and one passed last year, November. The last two are 108 and 110. So
Wow.
it's but Oklahoma has a history of not taking care of its own business first. I think what Oklahoma is a microcosm of the U.S. If you want to find all of those stereotypes of the U.S., you find them here in Oklahoma. So the five civilized tribes didn't actually even get their land the way it was supposed to be divvied out. They didn't get full ownership of their own property until maybe 5 to 7 years ago, is when Oklahoma actually started acknowledging Indian territory. So these were treaties that were passed years ago that Oklahoma finds a way to skate around. And so, mainly because only a few people know the story, only a few people are arguing. And so it's easier for the state to kind of dismiss that versus a more unified push to do something. There hasn't been, any boycotts or anything like that to say, you know what, we're not going to spend in these areas. We're not going to do this until you take care of this. So that doesn't happen. And so because it doesn't affect the bottom line of Oklahoma's tourism or Oklahoma's dollar. And so
Mm.
until those things are affected, they will continue to just kind of pass it on until those people pass away.
So let me ask you this: how do they teach about the Tulsa massacre in the public schools in Oklahoma? How do they do it properly, improperly? How do they do that?
Definitely improperly. We just got a law 2 years ago saying that we can teach it. Um, but the way it's taught is really take a trip to the museum. If you can take the kids to the Greenwood Rising Museum, they can go through there, they'll learn it, and that's really the bulk of what they get. They don't take the walking tours, most of them. Some of them walk the district on their own, but they're walking with their teacher who may not know the full extent of what happened down here. So it's still something that the curriculum it needs bolstering for sure, but it's 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 similar to what we gave you something, like at least now you can talk about it. And so there's no reparations, there's no anything. So I kind of go into different schools and do it, but you do have to be careful here. We do have some of those same critical race theory bills to restrict what you can say and what you can't. So if I'm in the school during the school day, I have to be very strategic about how I say certain things. But if I can catch them after school, then I can get them. So, my encouragement is, I go to every school and I tell every parent I run into, just come to the Greenwood District, take a walking tour. That way you can teach your own kids. Um, one of the things that's kind of controversial, but I always say it, I was kind of happy they started taking Black history out of schools because all these years that we took Black history, we don't know Black history. So it kind of puts the ball in our court to teach it ourselves versus depending on a school system that, number one, doesn't understand it, and number two, doesn't value it, to teach it to us in the way that we should get. So I just think that, African proverbs always pop up in my head, but until the lions have their own historians, the tale of the hunt will always glorify the hunter. And that's one that always stuck in my head. So yeah, I grab as many kids. That's one of the reasons I coach basketball, is I take these athletes who one day they may make the NBA, they may make the NFL, but they're going to go there armed with tons of Black history, to where now they know, when I buy this, multi-million-dollar mansion, let me put it in the neighborhood I grew up in. Let me go buy back my block. let me start businesses and empower people to start businesses. So let me get a Black agent. Let me find, Black representation in the law industry. So they'll know that before they ever make it out of high school, leaving Tulsa,
Wow.
Oklahoma.
Well, now do y'all see? Give me a yes if you see why I was so happy to have this brother in today. Yeah, let me know because I mean, he does this all the time. By the way, he can just rattle off all these facts and information that's so powerful. And I hope just right now that everybody in here will make a commitment that it's, at some point you will go to Tulsa, you will do the walking tour, you will go to. Also, I'm going to go and ask y'all, make sure you support the business. Go make it rain on the Black Wall Street Liquid Lounge. The service is great, the food is great, everything's great. And you so that they don't just feed you with food and drink, they feed you with knowledge. Starbucks can't do that. You know what I mean? So I would encourage y'all. So give me a commitment now. We got to support each other. I hope that you understand why I just have a lot of respect for this man. So let me kind of dive in and also, by the way, I'm gonna put the link for the private Zoom that Cody and I are gonna do. I'm gonna put that in the chat while Cody answers the next question. So you'll see the link in the chat and you can just click on and go ahead and register. It's going to happen Friday. Cody, you got the time? Do you know what time we start on Friday? I can't even remember.
I think it was 8 p.m.
Okay, yeah,
Let me
Friday at
yeah,
8 p.m. Here we go.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's going to be kind of a fireside chat. And the title that my team picked, because you got to have a team to do this, is Unveiling DNA Legacies, Reparations, and the Power of Oral Histories and Black Narratives with Cody Ransom. So we're gonna have this discussion Friday night at 8 p.m. And it's free to everybody that's in here. And I'll put the Zoom link in here in a second so everybody can register. So as I do that, I'd like to ask Cody another question. So talk a little bit about epigenetic inheritance. We talked a lot just recently. I heard Kamala Harris, who could be the next president, use a term that we've used in here repeatedly, and I haven't seen anybody else really use this term a lot other than us right here, and that was undiagnosed, untreated trauma. And I've always talked about undiagnosed, untreated trauma in our community in terms of how that's caused us so many problems. And I thought it was really interesting that Kamala used that phrase. I said, okay, you've been listening, you paying attention. Hopefully that'll be followed up with action. I don't know if it will, but you have a perspective in terms of how trauma and triumph kind of have been imprinted into our DNA, and that we only tend to learn about and access our trauma, and that this kind of stops us from reaching our excellence. Can you speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think that when I first started kind of diving into epigenetic inheritance, the main thing I got from it was when we tell the story of Black Wall Street, it's always the destruction. So what that does to a human's body is it tells you that, oh, well, if I try it, if I do it, I'm gonna lose it. It's gonna be destroyed. It's common sense, but I often find myself having to tell tourists that they could not have burned 197 Black businesses if Black people did not build 197 businesses. So if we're not talking about the building of it, and we only talk about the destruction, people come. A brother of mine named Marlon Hall, man, he says all the time that Tulsa is not a graveyard. It's whenever it's a garden, and gardens use dead things fertilize new life. And so things that happen down here, when people come here and all they know is 1921, they're coming to a graveyard. They're coming to hear about dead bodies and things of that nature. Versus when they come here thinking of a garden, there was something grown there that even though that crop may not be there anymore, that ground is still capable of producing it. And so when you come thinking garden versus graveyard, it changes. So there are things that you do in your life that you really had no choice. It was in your DNA for you to do certain things. There are tribes of people around the world who they're born with larger lung capacity. They can hold the breath longer than any other people on earth. There's tons of things that we inherit, from past generations that for some reason we just refuse. We haven't activated those things ourselves. We activate the traumatic parts. Um, you see a police car, your anxiety goes up.
Mm,
So police departments being formed as slave patrols would make sense why those things would, aggravate you that way. But there's also the positive things that come from it. When we when we see Black success, whether we know the people or not, it feels like we won too. And that's because that's in our DNA as well. That we had our ancestors cheered each other on, they helped each other out, they pushed for other Black people to be successful. So that being in our DNA as well, we have to activate that part too. You can use the trauma, but the trauma part can't happen if the triumph doesn't happen before. These weren't people that were just sitting in the middle of nowhere, had absolutely nothing. If that was the case, Black Wall Street would have never been burned.
Mm.
It's the
Wow.
fact that Black Wall Street started to elevate to a point that it was surpassing what a lot of our white counterparts were able to do. And this is first and second generation out of slavery. So if you can only imagine what third, fourth, and fifth generation out of slavery would have been able to do if first and second generation creates the largest collection of Black millionaires in US history. So if they were able to do that and we're building off of that foundation, then these are $1 billion areas. These are $1 billion families that we're talking to. And so we have to go back to figuring out why they did what they did, what brought them together, why did they do what they did. So that's the question I always ask people to when they're researching. Don't look at what happened, look at the why. So not the fact that we built it. Why did we build it? Well, we built it because back then they understood economics in a way that as a mass, we don't. They understood that if I spend where I live and I shop with the people around me, that it helps me. That brings money back to my area. That money can now be used. You know, I can purchase a property for 100,000, invest in the community, and that property value can go up to 200K if we invest the right way into the community that we bought it in. So everybody eats, everybody wins. So I think that with epigenetic inheritance, yes, we have to address the traumas, but we also have to embrace those triumphs that we have inside of there as well. If you dive into your family history, you're going to find someone, mainly your elders, would say, well, you remind me so much of your great grandfather. You remind me so much of my great aunt. And that's not just physical, it's something about your aura that does that. And so you got to kind of tap into that and figure out what it is.
I love that. I love that a lot. And by the way, everybody, I put the link to Cody's event on Friday into the chat, so you guys can go and register now. Hit that link and just go ahead and sign up, and you guys can come in for free because you're in this space. And also, I'm gonna talk to Jay Cameron, our travel partner, and I think we should do a group trip to Tulsa to Greenwood. What do y'all think about that? What do you think? I was just sitting and listening to the brother,
Yeah.
and I said, it would be great if we brought maybe 50 to 100 people, and all of us travel collectively and go down there and really not just learn, like really do that walking tour, be there with the people, learn from people like yourself about what really happened, but also maybe that will help in this drive to pursue justice, to make
Mm.
sure, to let them know, look, the world is watching. The world knows that the Oklahoma public schools have screwed over the children and not taught them the truth about what really happened. We
Yeah.
know that what they did to Mother Fletcher and this, and the families that went through this tragedy. You should not have to be 110 years old to to get justice. That's crazy. To even it's unfathomable. It's completely outrageous and disrespectful, and maybe us doing a group trip there, and I'm gonna talk about it like crazy, will draw some more attention to it and support what's really going on, because there's a lot of work to be done here. But what I also like about what you said, Cody, is you talked about something that I've seen a lot. I remember, so many times where I would bring up things like Black Wall Street and say, hey, why don't we build something like that now?
Mhm.
And I would have people say, well, if we build a Black Wall Street, all they're gonna do is burn it down again. And I was like, come on, man, what kind of how you gonna win when you're talking like a punk? Like you
Yeah.
talking like I don't even know how to be that much of a coward. Like you really worshiping white folks right now. Like you really not I'm not talking about the white folks who wouldn't burn down Black Wall Street. Let's be clear. I'm talking about the ones who really don't want to see us succeed. You're
Yeah.
really honoring them when you say, it's like a football team saying, man, we might as well not even run no offense because all they're gonna do is tackle us. All they're
Yeah.
gonna do is take the ball from us. You can't win like that. You sound like a
Mhm.
punk, right? And it reminded me. I remember. 30 years after the Vietnam War, they interviewed soldiers on the other side, from the North Vietnamese, the Viet Cong, and they said the Americans were confused because they kept dropping bombs on you, and they kept blowing up your bridges and blowing up the Ho Chi Minh Trail and all that, and then 2 days later it would be rebuilt. And they said,
Mhm.
"How did you do that?" But they said the United States dropped more bombs on Vietnam than all the bombs dropped by all the countries combined in World War II. Like
Mhm.
that is so they were like, how did you keep rebuilding? And they said, well, we have saying in Vietnam that if they blow it up, we will rebuild. And if they blow it up again, we will rebuild again.
Mhm.
And I said, man, now that's what I can relate to.
Yeah.
You know, that's gangster. That's how you win. And I
Mhm.
believe we're winners. So everybody type the word winner in the chat. I want us winning. I want to succeed, and we got to fight. You
Yeah.
cannot just give up like that. You don't look at the story of Black Wall Street as a reason to not try. Look
No.
at it as inspiration. Look at what they did. Look at what they built. So Cody, let me stop talking. I want to ask you another question that I think this is a really important question because it relates to the work that Dr. Claude Anderson um, has been doing with the 1866 Indian Treaty. And you
Mhm.
brought up something when you were talking to Chanel, one of our team members who helped arrange all this. Thank you. A shout out to Chanel.
Yes,
She's
thank you, Shanique.
yeah,
Yes.
can't get it done without her. You mentioned that part of the key in this reparations conversation, I'll make sure I get it right because I got the notes here, that it lies with the five civilized tribes
Mhm.
and the history that the tribes have of denying what we deserve as black people. Can you kind of talk about that? Because a lot of the reparations conversations pointed at the government and white folks, but you're
Yeah.
bringing in the five civilized tribes. Can you kind of talk about that? And then maybe even start out by explaining what the five civilized tribes are and stuff like that?
Yeah, so the five civilized tribes are they were the five that signed the treaty and signed an agreement to relocate. They were forcibly removed from the east coast of the U.S. That was Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, and they were all sent here to Oklahoma. So Oklahoma was originally called Indian Territory. So when they got here, this was supposed to just be their land. The five civilized tribes also enslaved black people. So that was one of the things that is not covered in most history classes. So in coming to Indian territory, they brought enslaved black people with them. Once those enslaved people became free, they were then called freedmen, and freedmen were given a portion of the Native American rights and benefits. So that's where the Trail of Tears comes from. So what ended up happening is over the years, the land run happened in 1889. It opens up settlement in Oklahoma for settlers to come in, but this was all still supposed to be Indian territory. So years later, the native tribes were able to sue the state of Oklahoma, saying that land that was designated in that treaty to belong to these five civilized tribes was now being taken by white men. And so what ended up happening here is the five civilized tribes are actually sovereign citizens in Oklahoma. The city and state can't prosecute a Native American person here if you have your Native American status. The only people that can prosecute them is the federal government for any federal crime, and then you have the light horsemen, which are Native police. They also are the only ones allowed to have a casino in Oklahoma, a smoke shop. That all goes through them. So what they do is they use that casino revenue to then all of the tribal members are able to get portions of the basically the profit that comes out of that casino. So depending on which tribe you're from and how successful their casinos and their land is, there's a kickback that comes for all of the people. Now we have a term down here that we'll learn about in more depth in the class, but it's a $5 Indian.
Hmm.
So it was a lot of Klansmen used to literally pay $5 to become Native people so that they can purchase land that was only for sale to Native American people. So, but their model of reparation was land. They also got 40 acres and a mule that directly after slavery, African American people were supposed to get, which we did get for a small portion of time. But they were able to get that. They were also able to keep sovereignty and develop their own systems. So their chiefs and all of that, they set the laws on who hunts on their territory, who fishes on their territory. When it's time to pay taxes on their vehicles and get license plates, they get discounts. Certain tolls in Oklahoma does not apply to them. So everyone else has to stop and pay the toll. They're like, nope, I'm a Cherokee Nation member. I don't have to pay this toll. They can drive right through it, and there's absolutely nothing city and state can do to them. So it's that model of reparation is there. Every demographic of people in the US has gotten reparations except for Black people. So it's us figuring out, number one, what do we want? Is it land? Is it land and money? Is it land, money, and education? That's one of the arguments here in Oklahoma. You're going to hear a lot is we can't get a set thing that, okay, well, everyone agrees on this just from our side. And so the natives did agree on we want land and we want sovereignty. The U.S. did help fund their infrastructure for a while, so they had a very clear um, ask, and so there was no way for the U.S. to wiggle out of that. Versus when you don't have an ask, you don't have a target, you give me so much wiggle room to get out. So it's like, but before we ever give reparations, one thing we have to address is some of the rules. You remember the one drop rule. So one drop of black blood made you black. So if we're getting reparations tomorrow, it's a $5 million check for all black folks. Well, if you see a blonde haired, blue eyed white woman standing in front of you, her DNA that she did through Ancestry says she's 2% Nigerian. How do you figure that out? So that's why we have to eliminate every excuse to say no, and then there's no reason, there's no way for them to wiggle out of it, and that's what Native Americans figured out.
Wow. Wow. Whew. Well, you know what? This has been really informative, man, and I look forward to the event on Friday. I want everybody to know that Cody and I are going to have a fireside chat on Friday night. It's free to everybody who is in this room. All of you can come for
Mm.
free. And I am texting out the link to you now. I put the link in the chat, but I'm also going to text it out to you. If you want to get it via text, make sure you're on the text list. Text the word morning to 87948. You also get to join Money in the Morning in the private Zoom. So text the word morning, MORNING, to 87948. Also, I went ahead because I want to be action oriented. My goal is to be a builder and a doer. So as we were just talking, I'm listening to Cody speak, and I'm thinking about how wonderful my experience was on his walking tour. I mentioned to you all a few minutes ago that I'd like for us to do a group trip out there. So I already sent out a text to our travel partner to see about setting that up. So Cody, just know, when our folks show up, y'all want to bring some extra people in that day, because I'm literally gonna ask everybody to go make it rain on the Black Wall Street Liquid Lounge, and anybody who travels there between now and then, you got to make that stop. You got to go talk to the brother directly, because this is how Cody, and I'll let you get the last word. This is how I think we should educate ourselves and each other. I really don't need the public school teaching us our history because they're going to do it wrong anyway. If you give me a choice between eating food that's going to poison me and not eating at all, I'd rather just wait until I can cook my own food. I don't want to eat poison just because I'm hungry. And that's what we do. We say, oh, well, we need you to teach us Black history. Who the hell said that we are so ignorant that we need somebody else to teach us our own history? That's part of our problem, right? So one other thing I want to mention to everybody before I let Cody get the last word is that, as you all know, since I just got back from Egypt a couple days ago, I'm actually, if I sound a little bit funny, it's because I think I might have got a little bit of a cold, so I'm fighting that. So forgive me for that. But we are going to we have a B1 travel club now, because I'm going to run back and forth to Africa a lot. And also that group trip to Tulsa is going to be part of that. We're going to arrange that as well. So if you'd like to be notified as we set these things up, pull out your phone, text the word travel to the number 87948. If you text travel to 87948, that puts you on a different list to be notified when we plan a trip, and you'll have the option of whether or not you want to go. The last trip to Egypt sold out very, very quickly. So you'll get first dibs, first option if you'd like to join us on a future trip. So Cody, any parting words you'd like to share in terms of what we can expect on Friday night when we go more in depth and things like that, and just any other thoughts you may have?
Yeah, just expect to hear stories of triumph too. I'm not a person that comes and just dumps trauma on people. I think that learning about individuals is the way we get connected, and then also understanding that as Black people, we are experts in Black history because that Black history is literally embedded in your DNA. So if you're a person like me that watches movies, there's no coincidence that when you watch The Woman King and you heard that they came from the Dahomey tribe, most of us in this chat has called our friends the homies for all these years. There's no coincidence from there because that word or that term does not exist in any other language. And the largest collection of African people that were taken from Africa were from the Dahomey and the Mali region. So that word and that thing would have been embedded in you. So the fact that it came back decades and generations later, that tribe could have been lost to time. But that's a term that we kept. So that's proof that what our ancestors did, even in places like Egypt, that stuff is embedded in the DNAs of people. And what you have to do is you have to invest in people. You have to invest in yourself too. And the biggest investment you can do for yourself is to learn as much about your lineage and what's going on inside of your cells every day. Learn that as best you can. And so, yeah, Friday, I'm looking forward to doing that with you all and diving in and having a more interaction with you. And definitely looking forward for y'all coming to Greenwood. If you come before, just come in, let them know you came out of this chat. They're gonna hook you up with something nice.
All right, all right. So, all right. So, everybody, if you could give Cody Ransom a digital thank you for coming in and just dropping his knowledge on us. Cody is definitely the homie,
Yeah,
and we are, and he is a friend to the Black Business School, and we are honored to have you here with us because together, I believe we can accomplish anything. So, Friday night at 8 p.m. is when Cody's event's going to happen. I'll put the link in the chat one more time if you want to register. Everybody in here can come for free. Second of all, if you want to be notified about travel, things like that, make sure you text the word travel to 87948. Text travel to 87948. I'll let you all know when we set up the trip to go to Tulsa. And then last but not least, Cody, I think are you booked for the All Black National Convention? You're coming into the convention
I
too, right?
am. Yep, I will
Okay,
be
okay,
there.
great.
Yeah,
So if you want to meet Cody in person, he'll be at the All Black National Convention. So these are our people. These are our, our historians, our thinkers. These are the ones that I bring them. Again, y'all know this is a sacred space. I don't want to bring no suckers in it. This is a sucker
mm,
free zone.
yeah,
This is a space for the homies. And so Cody is a guy I invited because I knew he would do exactly what he did today, which is to deliver something that is going to elevate our consciousness. So God bless you, brother. I look forward to seeing you on Friday.
yeah.
And y'all have a good day. And I'm about to go, and I think I need to go take a nap to get over this cold. So see y'all tomorrow morning. Bless you, everybody. See you soon.